Picture this. It's dusk somewhere in ancient Europe, around 40,000 years ago, and a woman has just noticed something small. Her partner came back from the river later than the walk should have taken, won't quite meet her eyes over the fire, and is being unusually generous with the fish he brought back, handing pieces to people he doesn't normally bother feeding. None of this is proof of anything. All of it together is enough. She doesn't say anything yet. She just watches carefully, filing away details the way a prosecutor files away evidence, because in a group this small, being wrong about who you can trust isn't a minor miscalculation. It's a resource problem, a safety problem, sometimes a survival problem all at once. Here's the question hiding underneath that scene that this video exists to dig into, because it's more interesting than the surface version suggests. Why do humans get jealous over mates at all? And why does infidelity carry the specific emotional weight it does across cultures that otherwise handled love, sex, and family in wildly different ways? Because if you look at it clearly, jealousy is a strange, expensive thing for a brain to run. It burns energy, damages relationships, sometimes triggers violence, and yet it shows up in essentially every human society ever studied, and in a surprising number of non-human animals too. Stick around, because the story of ancient humans and jealousy is older, stranger, and considerably more varied than most people assume. Start with the animal kingdom first, because the context matters. Jealousy-adjacent behavior, specifically mate guarding, is not a uniquely human invention. Male gorillas physically position themselves between rival males and the females in their group. Chimpanzees engage in aggressive mate guarding, sometimes violently, when a female is fertile. Many bird species that form pair bonds will attack intruders that approach their mate. So the underlying machinery, watch, guard, respond to threat, predates humans by a wide margin. What's different about the human version is the layer built on top of it. Language, gossip, memory, and long-term social reputation turned a simple guarding instinct into something considerably more elaborate. That elaboration seems to have run through at least 3 distinct systems, and ancient humans appear to have relied on all 3 simultaneously. The first is proximity. Anthropologists call this mate guarding in the strict sense, and it shows up nearly every known human society. Without written contracts or phones, the most reliable way to reduce the chance of infidelity was simply to not let opportunity exist in the first place, staying near a partner during vulnerable periods, traveling together on foraging trips, structuring daily routines so that time apart was limited and accounted for. The second system is paternity uncertainty, and this is genuinely one of the more debated ideas in the field, so it's worth presenting carefully rather than as settled fact. Some evolutionary psychologists argue that male jealousy skews towards anxiety about sexual infidelity specifically, because for most of human history, a man could never be fully certain a child was his biologically, while a woman always could be. Female jealousy, under this theory, skews more towards a partner's emotional attachment and resources shifting elsewhere. Other researchers push back hard on this framing, arguing it overstates a clean biological split and understates how much culture and individual relationships shape jealousy in practice. The honest answer, again, is almost certainly both, in proportions researchers are still actively arguing about. The third system is social, and this is where things get genuinely interesting for a species that lives in tight groups. Anthropologist Robin Dunbar has argued that gossip is essentially what human language evolved to do, tracking who can be trusted in a group too large for everyone to personally observe at all times. In a band of 30 to 150 people, which is roughly the range most ancient human groups appear to have lived in, nobody needed a private investigator. The group itself functioned as one, constantly, out loud, at every fire in the camp. An affair wasn't a secret held between two people. It was information that traveled the moment it existed, evaluated, discussed, and remembered by everyone who might need to factor it in to future decisions about trust, alliance, and cooperation. Now here's the part that complicates the tidy version of this story, because the human picture is not uniform, and treating jealousy as some fixed universal constant misses something important. Among several Amazonian societies, including the Ache and the Bari, anthropologists documented a belief system called partible paternity, the idea that a single child can have more than one biological father, each of whom contributed something to creating it. Under that framework, a woman having multiple partners during pregnancy wasn't scandalous, it was practical, because more men meant more people with a stake in that child's survival if food ran short or one father died. Jealousy, in that system, doesn't vanish, but it gets rerouted through an entirely different logic about what paternity even means. The lesson here is that a huge amount of what feels like fixed human nature around jealousy and fidelity is actually a specific cultural solution to a shared underlying problem, not the only possible solution. The chemistry underneath all of this deserves its own mention, because jealousy isn't purely a story humans tell each other. It has real physiology behind it. Suspected infidelity reliably triggers cortisol spikes, the same stress hormone involved in general threat response, along with shifts in oxytocin and vasopressin, the two hormone systems most closely tied to pair bonding in mammals generally. This machinery appears to be old, likely present in something close to its current form well before anatomically modern humans existed. What's genuinely uncertain is how much of the specific shape jealousy takes in any particular person or culture, who gets jealous of what, how intensely, over which specific behaviors, comes from that shared biological wiring versus the specific cultural rules layered on top of it. The honest answer, again, is almost certainly both, in proportions researchers are still actively arguing about. Archaeological evidence here is necessarily indirect, since jealousy itself doesn't fossilize, but a few threads are suggestive. Burial patterns at some ancient sites show pairs interred together in ways consistent with, though not proof of, long-term pair bonding. What's more reliably documented comes from ethnographic work with contemporary hunter-gatherer and small-scale societies, used cautiously as a working analogy rather than a direct window into ancient life. That record shows real range, public confrontation and shaming in some groups, remarkably low conflict handling of separations in others. There does not appear to have been one single ancient template for handling betrayal. There appear to have been many, shaped by group size and the specific social bargains each community had struck. Pair bonds themselves also look more fluid across this record than the modern one soulmate forever story assumes. In small, mobile groups, partnerships shifted more readily, not because attachment wasn't real, but because survival sometimes reshuffled who ended up with whom, and the group needed to keep functioning regardless. Pulling this together, the picture that emerges is of jealousy as a genuinely old piece of human wiring, present in some form well before our species existed, expressed through proximity, through paternity-linked anxiety that researchers still debate the details of, and through group-level social monitoring that turned every campfire into a kind of collective memory system. And running directly alongside that old wiring is a genuinely wide range of cultural solutions for handling infidelity when it happened anyway, from strict guarding to partible paternity, to public shaming, to quiet reshuffling, none of which was the single correct human answer,
all of which were working solutions to the same underlying problem of trust in a small group that depended entirely on itself to survive.